All right, we ready to get going?
Yes.
All right then. Well, maybe we'll start with something you're excited about and kick
Yay.
off with Redwood starring Idina Menzel from Broadway.
Yep.
Frick.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Redwood.
Redwood. So this came out about maybe a little over a month ago. It stars Idina Menzel, who is one of my favorite performing actresses on Broadway. She started out in the 90s at the Nederlander Theater at to star in Rent. She plays Maureen, and she comes back again to the Nederlander Theater 25 years later, full circle, to play in Redwood, which is a brand new musical that she developed with, I don't know who the playwright is, but this is something that's been in the making for a few years, and it's a modern play about a woman named Jessie who is played by Idina Menzel, who is a woman who's going through a period of severe grief after she goes through something traumatic the year prior, and she escapes to California to the Redwoods, uh, not referencing a specific place in particular. I know when I went in like the early 2000s to see family. We went to the Muir Woods in California. Kevin, I know you're from California, so you could
Hmm.
probably speak to redwoods in general, but they're beautiful woodsy areas that have redwood trees. And this was a play that was developed and inspired by a woman who was protesting a lot of like environmental problems that were going on a couple of years ago, and she ended up protesting by living in a tree. And this idea sparked creativity within Idina Menzel and the person who I guess wrote the show and wrote the music, etc. And it starts off pretty slow. It's this woman who lives in New York named Jessie, who Idina's playing, and she ends up driving to California from New York, and you know this woman's like escaping something overall, and they don't get really into detail until like midway through the play or through the show, more or less. The actual real life story of this woman that runs away and goes to live in the redwoods is by environmental activist Julia Butterfly Hill, who lived in a redwood tree for 738 days to protest logging. So they took that and like transformed it into this like very emotional story about a woman who goes to the West Coast to live in the redwoods, except for not for 738 days, about like 10 days. But before that, she just tries to find some salvation and escapes her life out on the East Coast. And this is a show that only has five actors on stage. You meet two that work in the redwoods, or in the, I guess in that national park, shall I say, where they're both academics that lead, and one leads climbs during the spring season, even though this is not the spring season, and they teach Idina Menzel to climb the tree. And it's very cool because the actual scenery and the set, I think, is like the most unique part of the show, because it's really just a plain like type of stage, and then it turns into like one redwood tree, and then the rest of the background they change, and it's like a screen that they project into the woods, and you're right there with her as she's in this woodsy area, and you get to see her climb the tree. They're harnessed in, and it's a very special show because you get to see Idina not only climb the tree, but also launch herself off of the tree and sing as she's harnessed, dancing in the air. And it's got very similar elements to like Cirque du Soleil in some regard, not as intricate, but just the fact that she's able to do that. And I was watching some interviews. She was certified, or she had to learn to become certified in climbing.
Oh wow.
in order to do this role, which is pretty impressive given that she's like almost 50. So she's not a spring chicken is my point. She's 53 and she's in fantastic shape and her and two other co-stars are climbing the tree and singing and then you get to meet um and see flashbacks of her son and her wife from years prior and yeah, it's all about how a woman is able to find salvation after facing grief from the past year of losing her son, essentially. And I don't want to get into it much further, but it's a very emotional piece. It's a different type of story than we're probably used to seeing Idina Menzel. The music is not like the actual songs themselves. I was talking with a friend of mine who I've gone to a Broadway show before with, and we both agreed the songs themselves were not like anything special. In my opinion, until the end, there is a song between her and her dead son that, and you see them together, and that was a very emotional piece. And then her being in the trees, and it's great because you get to see her climb the tree, and then they take you up further in the tree on like a ledge where she ends up staying within 10 days. So it's a very unique story that was put together. I know the reviews are very mixed for the show, but overall, I think you just got to stick with it and you realize just how special of a story it really is and how, in some way, shape, or form, we can all relate to some degree when it comes to losing a loved one
Mm.
and then
Is
being able to try to find yourself again and build yourself up as a
are
result of it.
the reviews are the that are mixed? Is that because of the music, do you think? If it's not like, is because I feel like it, kind of like we see with movies and stuff. When you go to see an Idina Menzel show, you kind of expect to be kind of blown away the whole time, and that may negatively impact a show that maybe might not get hit as hard if it was somebody else.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I didn't read the reviews, but I've heard from friends before seeing it that it wasn't like overwhelming like some of her other shows.
Hmm.
And I don't know why per se, but I know it has been pretty mixed overall. I mean, I'm reading now, a lot of them are saying it's heartfelt. It's definitely a very serious topic. Which, I mean, she's done series before. I mean, Rent is about AIDS, right? You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah.
the one of many major themes and such. But I mean, overall, it's just a very special piece and it's modern. So I think it's not one of those Broadway shows where they're all like dressed up to the nine. She's in climbing gear and she's wearing like as leisure wear in most of the show, and same with her colleagues or co-stars that are acting with her in this show.
Yeah.
But it could be maybe the music. Some of the music, in my opinion, at the beginning was very literal. Like the lyrics were not things. It's as if someone just put it together last minute.
Mm.
However, the songs get very sh like much stronger as the show goes on.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I put a lot of faith in Idina Menzel, so I feel like even if it starts slow, it she's probably pretty incredible when the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
Um, is the story itself pretty slow in the beginning?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so. You
Yeah.
see her, she's supposed to be driving away and things are very you feel her anxiety and stuff, but you don't know why, so it's a bit slow in that sense. And then she just arrives at these redwoods and she's blown away by their mysticism and beauty. And then they talk about like the root system of
Mm-hmm.
redwoods and how even these are like the fact that these are hundreds and of feet high, their roots only go down maybe like 5 or 6 feet. So the roots themselves are shallow, but they are able to stay alive by building a network and sustaining nourishment by connecting underground with other redwoods. And as a whole, they stay up strong together.
Mm. Very metaphorical. Um,
100%.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. There is some really cool stuff out there about um, the forest floor and just in general. Like if you do research and stuff on it, and about how it really is kind of a living organism, and these things that live on or in the ground
Yeah,
kind of communicate with each other across these underground networks. I know The Last of Us on HBO. They didn't talk about it in the video game, but in the first series of the show, they talk about how fungi in the forest floor. Uh, they effectively communicate across the forest floor also, and they react in different ways when something
right,
hundreds of feet, if not a mile away, is affected in some way. Like they kind of all know. So it's a real trip because we don't think of these things as necessarily intelligent, but at the same time, they're working together in a way that we probably don't fully understand.
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's one of those shows that you need to give a chance. At first, I'd say the first 5, 10 minutes, I was like, what is this? Like, I'm not really understanding where they're going with this, but I think it's a show that you just need to sit back, really enjoy the set at first, and then immerse yourself in the story and try to put yourself in the shoes of this woman, Jessie, who is trying to cope. And, when it comes to trauma and some, pretty life-changing events, we all react differently and we
mhm.
all cope in our own way. And I think for her, it wasn't therapy and wasn't talking about it like it was for her wife. For her, she had to put herself in a different environment.
And if somebody picked up the soundtrack, like what percentage of it is of the show is dialogue versus music? Like, could you pick up the soundtrack and have a pretty good idea what's going on in the show, or
So
is
I
it
had
more
a lot of
spoken?
trouble to find the soundtrack. Like I think you just have to go to
Hmm.
Spotify to find it. It's not like something that I could just find on YouTube immediately or Pandora or just I couldn't even like at the beginning like name one of the main songs for you. That's how, you know, much I think it lacks in like there's like every show has like one major hit and I couldn't even think of that. The
Hmm.
songs are just a little bit flat overall for me, and it's a shame because she has such an amazing voice. And not only does
Yeah.
she have an amazing voice, but there was another actress who played one of the guides in the Redwoods, and her voice I think was just as powerful and iconic as Idina's, if not more so actually, in the show. And the one who plays her son, he looked so familiar, and then I realized I saw him back in 2020, right before the pandemic, like days before the world shut down. He was the understudy for uh, Dear Evan Hansen, and he played Evan Hansen.
Oh, okay.
And
That's not an easy role.
not an easy
Yeah.
role at all, and he's got an incredible voice as well. So they definitely were strategic with their casting for this. So I kind of enjoyed the smaller cast with only having 5 people. It was definitely a very heartfelt piece. But yeah, I think when it comes to the music and the songs, I don't know if I felt connected to the music. There was that one song with her and her son, which I definitely I pulled at my heartstrings for sure, but I think overall, like I think this could have actually just served well as a play, not necessarily a musical,
Mm.
personally, but I think it was fine as a musical in terms of just the songs, maybe. And this is the other thing too, maybe I just need to listen to the songs more until I feel a certain way about the music. But again, this is not something that I find like other than me just going to Spotify is going to be like super accessible, whereas other shows like they'll push a soundtrack pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does actually almost sound like a show that was written to be a stage play that they decided to throw music into.
Right,
Um, Maybe because they could get somebody like Idina Menzel and that they gave it a shot. Because
right,
the idea of it sounds, relatively compelling. But if the music doesn't work and you're making it a musical, that definitely does not help.
right.
you know.
So she co-created it. Idina Menzel's new Broadway musical Redwood is a co-creation with Tina Landau, inspired by the true story of Julia Butterfly. So she wasn't just someone who was acting. She put together for the past few years with Julia Landau to make this show and just use this story as like a source of inspiration in this musical. I'm sorry, Tina Landau, not Julia Landau. Julia Butterfly Hill is who it's inspired by. So, and then it says features music by Kate Diaz, who is new to Broadway. So it's just women that took inspiration from a true life story and then were able to build this story and create a play and musical around this true event. So it's definitely unique for sure. And the fact that she had a hand in the involvement of the creation of it, I think is really special as well, given that she's already so incredibly talented.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it was a bit of a few people kind of still kind of honing their craft, right? Like this woman that did the music. So if it's her first show,
Yeah,
she's probably got some learning to do from that. So, give a little bit of benefit of the doubt there too.
true. Definitely. But
Yeah.
I think if you're looking for something special on Broadway and you want to see Idina Menzel, the stage, my cousin and I, we sat second row mezzanine, and the view is fantastic. She was so close to us, Idina Menzel, and just seeing her go up the tree from the mezzanine was perfect. We saw everything we needed to see right front and center. And it's gorgeous to look at, just gorgeous to look at as you feel like you're right there with her in the midst of the redwoods.
Yeah, I think people kind of sometimes underrate the amazingness of sitting mezzanine. I know when me and my daughter went and saw Wicked, we were a couple rows back, but we were mezzanine,
Hmm.
and I would argue that the seats are probably better than being, floor level because you can get this top-down view of a lot of stuff that might be harder to see from the floor.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not. There are bad seats. Like you can sit in the back of the theater, and then, it's harder to see stuff. But I think when you're pretty close to the front and mezzanine, or even middle floor. I think I sat like middle floor for Lion King
Hmm.
when I went, and those are pretty good seats. It's almost like sitting up close for a big show is almost too close. It's like when you go to a movie theater, you don't really want to sit in the
Yep,
front row. You kind of want to
for
be able to
sure.
sit back and see everything. So, um, I think those seats are usually pretty good.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the play, but for this type of show, I think like mezzanine seats and being able to sit back and see the whole tree served very well for this type of production. And yeah, is it perfect? No, but freaking love her. She's so
She's
incredibly
she's awesome.
talented.
Yeah.
And you can tell she puts her heart and soul into the show so much, given that she has more than just, an acting hand in this musical, like she helped co-create it. So I think that alone makes it pretty special. And I think I read somewhere like this is the first time she's been on Broadway, or at least back to Broadway in 10 years. And the fact that she's doing it full circle back at the Nederlander Theater where she started her Broadway career 20 over 25 years ago in Rent. She said she has the same dressing room and she knocked down the wall with the dressing room that was next to her, which originally her ex-husband Tay Diggs and a few other guys were in. So now she's got like a massive suite as a dressing room. And it's just become, I think, a complete sanctuary for her and a real treat to be back where she got her start.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's running at least through, I want to say at least through the summer, maybe even longer. And that's the thing with like once you get a big star, they don't usually stay for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, a great project and I'm excited to see it. And she's just, the fact that she's been doing this for 25 years, she sounds so good. And she's definitely, she's someone that I think still has a lot of fire inside her and has a
Hmm.
lot more to come. Like I think of Bernadette Peters and other actresses
Yeah.
that have been on Broadway for decades and decades. And I think Idina Menzel is someone that's without a doubt on that list and still has at least I think another 2, 3 decades inside of her to bring an audience, to life and to, celebrate her great talent.
Yeah. Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
She really
Um,
is. And she's a kind, you could just tell from interviews she truly loves what she does and she has a certain level of kindness and she showcases that and really brings that to the stage.
yeah. Speaking of Idina Menzel
Okay.
and Broadway, I did watch Wicked.
Yay!
I didn't realize that her and Kristen Chenoweth have a little appearance in there, so that
They
was fun to
do.
see. That was fun to see. Overall, like I'm not really going to get into it because you already talked about it. But it was really good. I was like surprised, like really. I can see, now watching it, why it was in Best Picture discussions. I can
Yep.
really see why people were a little upset that Ariana Grande didn't get more respect put on her name for Best Actress. She was incredible. Um, I
Right.
I feel like Cynthia Erivo did a really good job, but her character Elphaba is in a lot of scenes more subtle than than Glinda, and I think that
Hmm.
probably hurt her a little bit as far as the award nods go. She could definitely sing; she's incredible, but the
Right.
character itself tends to be a little more, at least in the first act. I don't remember how much more personality she gets in the second act, but in the first act, she's sort of you kind of your level set character, like she's going through stuff, but she's not over the top. Whereas there's a reason that Kristen Chenoweth was the perfect person for Glinda in the first place, and you can
Yeah.
see that. Like I could see it when I went and saw it on Broadway. I could see that Kristen Chenoweth's spirit kind of pushing through to the actress that I saw, and then to see Ariana Grande, who I know looked up to Kristen Chenoweth a lot.
Oh yeah.
Um, you can see some of that personality come through, but I mean, she was fantastic in this. I was really like I knew she
She's
was going to be
amazing.
I knew she was going to be okay, like or good, and whatever, but she was awesome. And so it was really good. Like the overall production quality is incredible. Set design, like if you have Peacock and you
Fantastic.
go to watch it, look for there's some making of videos
Yeah.
and stuff on Peacock too that really like even if they don't expand your knowledge of the show, you can see how much care went into this. Like the people that were making it, how much they not only wanted to do this but wanted to do the best possible job. It reminds me of when they were making the Harry Potter movies. How
Hmm.
you have this thing and you know how big of a deal it is, and you know that if you don't do it perfect, it's not going to be the right thing, and people are gonna, are gonna hate it. And I think, I think it was done perfectly. And I think Andrew talked about it last week how, Cynthia Erivo had her moment where, publicly, like it seemed like she maybe misstepped a little, because we were kind
Yeah.
of talking about the controversy around Snow White, but she was able to back off of that, and you can see just how well they did. And if you see the behind the scenes stuff, how well her and Ariana Grande got along. And I think that makes for a better show when those leads are getting along. And one thing that was really impressive too, like Moulin Rouge, when they made that movie, a lot of what we hear in the movie was actually recorded on set,
Right.
which is super impressive to me. Like if they don't have to go into a studio and they can do this thing, and you're going to put it on film
Oh yeah.
based on what they did on set, that's incredible. So yeah, it's really good. If you haven't watched it and you have Peacock, definitely check it out. Um, it it certainly is a fun feel good movie. So like if you're not into musicals or if you're not looking for that, if you're looking for drama or something, then maybe it's not for you. But overall, it's really good. And I think, like I said, Ariana Grande brought a whole lot of fun to it. Jeff Goldblum was great in his part. Um,
100%.
why am I forgetting her name? That plays Miss Marvel.
Oh, Cynthia. Is it Cynthia?
No, it's
Oh,
she's like the biggest Asian actress on the planet right now. She's older. She just did Star Trek. She was
Michelle
in
Yao.
Discovery.
Yeah,
Michelle
Michelle
Yeoh.
Yao.
Michelle
Yao.
Yeoh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yao. Sorry.
She's great. She I think she
Mm,
said she really hasn't done musicals before. So this
right.
was kind of new for her, and I thought she did a great job. Like it's really good overall. Peter Dinklage's part is small, but he's solid. Um,
Totally.
yeah, it's really good, and it's funny because I watch the people in my house watching it that don't know the second act, and then that don't know how this ties into the Wizard of Oz and how that is.
Right.
It really kind of changes the Wizard of Oz in a lot of ways, at least what we saw in the Wizard of Oz in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And so I'm excited to for the second one to come out and catch that. Uh,
Yeah. I also saw
mhm.
that the making of Wicked, and
Mhm.
that blew me away. I think the part that I found to be outside of just the costumes and how talented everyone was, they showed Cynthia Erivo in a harness singing, like thrown
Mhm.
into the air. She did all her own stunts. She sings as she's like being flown around.
Unreal.
It was unreal seeing it like in action. It was fantastic. Or even just how they applied her makeup and the
Hmm.
actual like freckles. They had like this actual mask that they put on her and then spray painted the
Yeah.
freckles after develop. It was
So they
so
would always be the
detailed.
same. Yeah.
Correct. It
Um,
was something else. So fantastic. I really enjoyed that making of piece. That was maybe what, like an hour? I don't
yeah.
know, but it
Yeah.
was
It's
it
only
was
like an hour
great.
long.
It
And
was
what's
great.
cool too is you could see how much input the actress had also. They talk about how
Yep.
they kind of left it up to her whether she wanted to do the color CGI or if she wanted to do, makeup. And she was like, no, she's like,
I want
I need
makeup.
to feel it. I need to see it. And then you could see how both her and Ariana Grande had input on the
Yes.
dresses and the outfits and things like that. And I always forget, and it's really cool to watch, and people don't really understand that, especially in theater, the costume design. It is, I mean, it is art. They are talking about things, they see things in a way that I think other people just don't. I think it's even different than traditional fashion design. Like there's just things that they have to be able to put onto the stage and feelings and things like that these things
Right.
have to put out there. And it's really impressive to see the way these guys think. They only get a few minutes with a costume designer, I think, in the making of thing, but he was really cool to
And he
hear talk
won
about it
Best
too.
Costume Design, that guy.
He
He won the
deserved it.
Oscar
Definitely
and he
deserved it.
did deserve it. Just incredible. How about the part, and they spoke about this, Kevin, where the reveal came out, seeing Cynthia in full Elphaba makeup, and I think they said like Ariana cried or something like that.
Hmm.
She was just so, both of these women, and they showed like them on Zoom because keep in mind a lot of this
Yeah.
was filmed during COVID, but telling these women that they
Hmm.
earned the roles and how emotional both of them are. They cared about this project so much and really put their heart and soul into to making this the best possible. And even like the director, John Chu, this was like a whole big thing. And he even said like project wise, he wanted to take on Wicked.
Hmm.
This was like a huge reach goal for him. And casting had to be spot on. And they tried to audition everyone, no
Yep.
namers to big namers, and he even said like people were like giving Ariana Grande like a little bit of crap in the beginning, being like, "Oh,
Hmm.
you're bringing this woman, like you're gonna make the show about her," but he's like, she earned it, and anyone who has seen the film, I don't see how you can't
Yeah,
agree with him.
it couldn't be anybody else. But it's kind of like what we talked about last week with Disney castings and how, they've gone bigger and bigger and bigger. I think that they had to try to cast somebody else, right? Because you don't want to cast somebody that overshadows the film. You don't want somebody who you don't want people to go watch Wicked because it's Ariana Grande. You don't want Ariana Grande and Wicked. You want Wicked with
with
Ariana
Ariana
Grande, you know?
Grande.
And so like there's kind of a difference in mentality there. And I
Yeah.
think even seeing this, like you could see how her being the star was still kind of a big deal. And people were kind of concerned that maybe she got the part for the wrong reasons. Maybe she got the part for her name and all
Yeah.
that. But if you watch what they went through in the casting process, and if you watch the videos of her actually auditioning and the things that like how many times she went through it, um, yeah, you can see like just how much she wanted it, how much she earned it. She really was fantastic. It's
She,
funny too to see her in that process because she looks like she's such a baby.
she's
She got the
changed her
dark hair.
whole
Yeah.
look for this
Hmm.
show. She is now like a more like her skin is more porcelain looking
Hmm.
and her hair is blonde. Like you saw her in the beginning audition, she had not
Very
as dark
dark
as
hair.
me, but darker hair,
Yeah.
right? And even just the makeup she uses, I think a lot of her like in interviews and everything now, it wasn't just for the role, like she's changed a lot of her image, I think, because of this film.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and we'll see what happens, 2 years down the line when this thing is finally settled. She's still doing promotion and stuff for the next, film and all that jazz. So
Right.
she'll be settled into this kind of at least persona for a little while. But it was funny to
Sure.
see her in that audition process because when you see her, she seems like such a little white girl right now, and she definitely like during the audition process and all that, she still looked like very Italian blooded, like her skin, like you said, looked a little more olive. Her eyes are, she's got big brown eyes. Like she really does. I didn't realize like just how
Yeah.
big her eyes are. And then her hair was really dark. So, it definitely, she went through,
Transformation.
yeah, for this show. And I mean, she is so perfect for the part. It's ridiculous. Um, but
Her
yeah, it'll be
acting is
interesting to see.
phenomenal.
Oh, and her comedic timing, which I think people
Yes.
do not.
Give her credit for. Yep.
Yeah, because she's a Disney kid or whatever. But no, her comedic timing
Nickelodeon.
in it, is it Nickelodeon? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, her comedic timing is perfect. Like she is fantastic. So
Yep.
yeah.
It's
I,
just, it's a fantastic film. So happy you got to see it and understand the whole. And I knew you would love it in general,
yeah.
just given that you enjoy a lot of good theater, but also just the magic behind it, knowing
Hmm.
that you saw that on Broadway not too long ago, right? A few years ago
Yeah.
with your daughter. Yeah.
2.5 years ago. About, yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm definitely gonna watch it again at least once or twice before the next one comes out. So yeah, it
it's
is really good.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Even the options on Peacock, like they have an option, Kevin, where you can do the sing-along version, which I'm like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
so good.
there's a lot of fun stuff that I think bringing it to a service like that is an advantage that you have.
100%.
So, all right, cool. Well, moving away from Broadway, then
Aw.
I will, I will go to, I'll go to our friend Steven Soderbergh, who we talked about, I think at least once or twice in the last like 2 weeks. It's crazy.
He's
I
popping up
haven't,
everywhere.
yeah, he's everywhere. He put out this movie behind me, Presence, that came out. Um, I think it was this year. It may have been the end of last year, but I think it was earlier this year. Um, and it stars Lucy Liu, um, Sullivan. I forget his name, but he was from This Is Us. Um, and then the rest of the cast is pretty much unknown. Um, and what's interesting. There was a Tom Hanks movie that came out, I think, also this year, where it takes place from basically from the view of the living room for the entire film. Not quite the same, but this entire film takes place inside the house. And it takes place, or the point of the film is it's taken from the point of view of an entity that is sort of haunting this house rather than from any one individual or any multiple characters' point of view. And so, the film starts off, the house is empty, it's being sold to this family. Um, and they ultimately purchase this house and move in. And so it's a really interesting film because it was billed as a horror movie, and I don't think it's a horror movie at all. Um, I didn't find really any of it scary. I mean, to say that because it's a ghost story that it has to be horror, I think is not accurate. It is definitely more of a family drama with a ghost, like watching basically almost voyeuristically, versus it being, this malicious monster thing. Because there was another film that was done in the same way last year. I think it was called. I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head. I'll try and put it in the line there, but it was a horror film and it was told from the story or from the perspective of the actual killer. So you have very like Friday the 13th type killer, and it was told from his point of view instead. But this, it's really interesting. So this family moves in. You got Lucy Liu, who plays this very businesslike mom. She's, as the story goes on, you find out she's doing something shady. I don't think we ever find out what it is, but she's doing something that is not good. Like she's going to get in trouble for it at some point. And Chris Sullivan is her husband. As the story goes on, you find out that he's getting really uncomfortable with it. I think has grown tired of kind of her behavior, because at one point he's talking to a lawyer and kind of bringing up the idea of, if she did something illegal, what if, is the spouse at fault? And you can only hear one side of the conversation, right? Like we're seeing it from the perspective of somebody watching this. So you can hear his side of the conversation, but not the other. And so, he says, if, uh, how much trouble can a spouse get into if they're, if their spouse is doing something illegal, business wise? And, you can kind of tell that the answer is, well, you'd still be pretty well screwed. And he's like, well, what if they were separated? And there's no implication that in the show yet that has happened. So it's like he's thinking about leaving her or separating from her. Um, and one of the things about the show or the movie that is really interesting too is that they have two kids. They have a son and a daughter, and Lucy Liu's character loves the son, and like that's her. It's almost like she doesn't have another kid. And so a couple of times the dad even says, he's like, you have another kid, right? Like she's very all about her son in almost creepy way. Like I saw a few posts and comments and stuff about the movie, where people were like, is she kind of into her kid? Like it was a little just weird, like overzealous as a mom, and kind of ignoring the daughter. And the story behind the daughter is, as she's moving into this house, right before they moved in, one of her friends died of a supposed overdose. Right, so I think she must be younger than a junior in high school, because they talk about how she's gonna have to study something as a junior. Um, and so she's probably a sophomore. And so she's relatively young. Her friend died of an apparent drug overdose. She's dealing with that and taking it really hard. She's a character that it seems like probably deals with depression or undiagnosed depression. The mom wants to pretend like she's fine. Like the dad's trying to push to get her therapy. The mom's like, no, she's fine, blah, blah, blah. And she's clearly messed up. And so her brother is the cooler of the two, right? Like he's on the swim team, all that. He makes this friend, who's kind of a real dick, but he's really popular at school. And so for the brother, knowing this guy will kind of raise his stature. Well, as the film goes on, this guy who's a total dick kind of falls in with the girl. Like they actually start hooking up. And it's tricky. I want to talk about this, but I don't want to give away kind of the big twist at the end and some of the stuff that happens near the end of the movie. I will say it definitely starts slow. It starts slower than I wanted. It's tricky because, like I said, because it's told from the point of view of the entity haunting the house, you in some cases, like I said, when somebody's on the phone, when somebody's talking to somebody that's not there, you only get half of the dialogue. You don't get to overhear the other half of the conversation. So you're kind of making your own, um, inferences there. It it's well made. It's really well shot. I think a lot of the film, from what I read, in some places, Steven Soderbergh was actually the one filming. He was following people with a steady cam and doing the filming because he goes through the house and he goes upstairs and and around.
Cool.
And so yeah, he did a lot of the work in that too. Um, but it was, all in all, it's a decent movie. I don't think it's a great movie, and it's like I said, it's definitely not horror. I think if you go in expecting it to be a horror film, you'll certainly be disappointed.
Right.
Um, it does have some elements to it that are, I think, more scary. I don't know if sociologically is the right word, but it's just like there's some real world things in there that are not awesome. Um, and but it's really about the family relationship overall and how um how much drama there is in there, and it leads to an ending that I think is a surprise ending. The twist is surprising. I don't think you can see it coming, although they do kind of, like, looking back, they try to feed it
Mhm.
to you a little bit, or at least set it up so that it's believable. Uh,
Okay.
and definitely Lucy Liu's character, her best moment is at the very end, and she really kind of puts herself into this final scene that she has, very emotional for her. The two adults do a really good job. I think Chris Sullivan actually does a really great job as a guy who is kind of seeing his this world that he's had for a long time. Um, I don't know if fall apart's the right word, more just he's kind of
Hmm.
um, disassociating from it and realizing that maybe the best thing for him is to not be married to this woman anymore. And you can tell that he loves his daughter very much, and it hurts him and it hurts her that Lucy Liu's character just kind of doesn't acknowledge her existence.
Hmm.
And so it's definitely it's got its emotional moments. It's got its moments that are impactful, especially if you've lived like that or know people that have lived like that. I think it'll resonate a little more. Um, but all in all, it was okay. It's like a 6.5, I think, on IMDb.
Right.
I would give it a 6, maybe. Um, Definitely through the lens of it not being a horror film. Like if I went in thinking it was a horror film, I'd probably give it like a 4. It's not particularly exciting through a lot of it. Um, it's short. I want to say it's only like an hour and a half. I it's still not streaming yet. I rented it for like $6, I think, because I just wanted to see it.
Right.
Um, and I think I would definitely would say just to go ahead and wait for it to come out and be free somewhere. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not bad. I think if you are a lightweight horror person or anything like that, you're okay. Like it won't scare you at all.
Right.
Um, so it's interesting in that regard. Like I said, the two parents do a really good job. I think the daughter does okay. The son is kind of cheesy. And her friend, or sorry, his friend that ultimately dates the daughter, he plays a good, like, greasy kind of preppy prick kid, who seems like, he's got it all together, but he's definitely a dick. So,
Mm.
there's good elements to it. Um, and
Sure.
a solid twist at the end that like I said, they set up pretty well,
Unexpected.
but yeah, it's definitely not what you think it is. So,
Okay. Interesting. I just get like based on the picture you have in the background and just what I'm seeing online, I'm like, oh, this is gonna get supernatural, and I don't know if this is what I want.
it really doesn't.
Doesn't
That's
though.
that's what's
Yeah.
really bizarre about it is that it's told from the point of view of a ghost, right? Or an entity maybe. And
Sure.
maybe two or three times in the movie it uh, manipulates something physical. Otherwise, like there's a few moments
Mm.
where somebody kind of acknowledges that they feel something. A psychic comes into the house at one point, and they have that moment that
Yeah.
very much plays out, I think, realistically. Even though I don't think the actress is necessarily great, but that plays out in a way that I think feels very real because if you brought somebody into your house that you were kind of not sure that it's haunted or not, I think if you're a believer, you would totally believe the psychic, and if you weren't a believer, you would totally not believe the psychic. And I think that even though it's not the best performance, like the feeling of that scene, the way that it comes away, you're like, yeah, if you were depending on what camp you're in, living in that house, you would take away one thing versus another from this psychic, whether they're a scammer or whether they really are. Um,
Sure.
and so that kind of works. But yeah, there's a scene where I think there's three scenes, technically a fourth scene where something is manipulated. Otherwise, it's really just this entity watching this family go through the things that it's going through, and trying to affect change over something very specific in the story that I don't want to give away. Um, but yeah,
Right.
it's not. It's just not creepy like ever. It's not creepy or scary or anything like that. So, like I said, it's really for me not. I would never classify it as a horror film. It just doesn't feel like that at all to me. So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay. I heard of it and like I'm not gonna lie, like I bypassed it at one point from the stream. I was like, not for me, just based on seeing the synopsis and then just getting more supernatural type of vibes. I'm like, or not, is it set? Well, like just those supernatural type of
yeah.
spirit vibes. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, like I think of something
Yeah.
like Paranormal Activity, where it all kind of takes place from
Right.
inside the house, and that one has like this
No
building
thanks.
sense of dread, and it gets scarier and all that. This one just
Not
doesn't
the
have that.
case.
It doesn't have that, and it's really, like I said, it's weird because it is from the point of view of something that is not human,
Mm,
right? Um, but it's yeah, it's just never scary. So
interesting. Okay.
yeah,
Duly noted.
yeah. So all right, well, we can move on from that one. Like I said, a six-ish. Not incredible, but not
Yeah,
terrible. Watch it when it's free, is
sure.
what I'd say. Um, but okay, we can move on to speaking of things that are free and streaming. You watched.
Free streaming and also terrible as well.
I
I
saw the rating on IMDb. It's like a 5.
so bad. Oh gosh.
So
Kevin, what
Holland with Nicole Kidman.
why did I watch this? Yes. Here's my personal opinion about Nicole Kidman. I think sh recently she's put out a lot of like, or I shouldn't say she's put out, right? Because she's not directing these films, but she's in a lot of shitty movies, like just within the past couple years. And it's like, girlfriend, you are so talented. Why are you taking on such shit projects?
But I think she's involved with a lot of them. Like I would have to
Must
look
be
at
or
this one and see if she
something.
was producing it. But
Oh
the one she
God.
just did, the Netflix show that was okay with her
The
and
Perfect Couple,
is that what it was? Where they it was
or
on the
not The
island,
Perfect
they were
Couple.
all rich.
You saw it.
Um,
I remember you talked about it like a
yeah,
few months ago.
it
I
was
thought that was
her.
good though.
It was okay. Like it wasn't bad, but you could definitely tell like it was on the cornier side. Like it was not um like high quality drama. Uh,
Sure.
and
Yeah, it's called
then
The Perfect Couple. That's yeah, you talked about this with
yeah,
Dakota Fanning and
yeah,
and
yeah,
Liev
yeah.
Schreiber. Yeah, but that actually looked good.
It was entertaining. Like it was not bad, but like you can see almost like this slow step down of like her recent career from like Big Little Lies, and then it seems like that was a great idea, and she's trying to remake things like that that seem to be every time is a little less like just quality than the one that came before it. 'Cause she did one after that that seemed like it was like Big Little Lies 2 almost.
Right,
Um, and then yeah, just all downhill from there it seems.
right. Exactly. Ugh, just so weird. Anyway, so I watched this nonsense this evening. The from the previews, I'm like, ooh, this is Nicole Kidman in like a really spicy new thriller. And, even though she's in her 50s now, right? But she's just still like
I
very
think she's in her
with it. Is
60s.
she in her 60s?
I
Gosh,
think so.
let's actually check. She's got to be like at least late 50s. She is 57.
57. Okay.
Close enough. But yeah, she's just put in some of these like very sexy roles sometimes. I don't know. But that's a whole other tangent I won't go onto this evening. So she plays a housewife, Nancy, who is a teacher in Holland, Michigan, and she teaches, it seems like, home ec, and she is living in like a middle class lifestyle with her husband Fred, and they have a son who's like 12 or 13 named Harry, and her husband Fred is played by Matthew McFadden.
Hmm.
McFadden?
I
Do
think
you
it's
know who he is?
McFadden. Yeah.
McFadden. I knew him from Death at a Funeral, like the British version, and I think he was also in Pride and Prejudice, I'm pretty sure,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
too. That's like what he's known for. So it's funny to like non-American actors with American accents playing Americans here. And he's an optometrist, and you notice like at the beginning of the film, he's going on these conferences for whether it be like they mentioned Alcon, which is like a pretty big brand for contact solution,
Hmm.
that he's going to these conferences, and they're not just like a weekend, they're like a couple days long, and she's convinced that her husband's cheating on her, so she comes together with one of her teacher colleagues who is played by the actor Gael Garcia Bernal, he's
Yeah.
a Mexican actor, and he's been in a couple of things. I recognized him from other projects and such, but he plays David, who is like an immigrant, and he's a teacher, and he looks like he's like a woodworking teacher, a teacher that teaches tech,
Like
which we
shop.
called,
Yeah.
yeah, wood shop tech, like that's what we called it in my school, like growing up in middle school, more or less, but it seems like they teach, I think like middle school, high school age,
Yeah.
and they're very close, and she gets him involved, and they start to undergo like a investigation together on trying to like get dirt on her husband to be like, is he cheating? She finds like just like Polaroid photos that are like a little bit suspect, and she's like, what is this? It's super weird. Um, and long story short, and I don't want to give too much away, um, in the basement of their house, they have like a train model, like they're train people, him and the son, like he'll like work on this like model train and like paint parts of the train. And it's like almost like this little village that's developed around the train tracks, and they have this in the basement. And you're like, something's up with this, like something's very weird. And she notices that just there's a rift in their marriage. And she's like, he's got to be cheating. Like, what is he doing? And her and Dave find out that he is a serial killer, and he's been killing a number of women that have like gone missing for years, and she has had like no clue. And while this is going on, her and her colleague David like form romantic feelings for each other. The what do you call woodshop teacher.
Mhm.
So that's interesting too. But it's just like very bizarre. It's supposed to be a thriller. I don't know. I wasn't expecting the whole serial killer thing. Like it's sort of like Trap, which I saw over the summer with
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
that
What's his name?
yeah, the Sh M. Night Shyamalan
Yeah.
movie with Josh Hutcherson. Yeah, that was similar in that sense where he's just like killing people and such, and in like a very gross and disturbing manner. So yeah, you find out like that's this guy's like shtick. He's not actually like cheating on his wife. He's just killing women and is bringing her closer to this other guy. But I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I would have normally been like more engaged by it, but I'm not. And throughout the film, they like make reference to Holland like as a country a bit, like with the whole just the dress of like almost like the Amish type of hats and stuff. I'm like, is this gonna be like a Midsommar type of thing? Like that's kind of where my head was gonna go. Like, if so, cool, but they already did that. So it's super bizarre. And yeah, you come to find out his secret, and David, the Mexican immigrant who she has feelings for, and they're now like a thing, ends up like catching him in the act. Her husband, when he's spying on him, it's wild, and then they start like fighting each other physically. So yeah, it's like yeah, I could have done without it. And I was like, this sucks. And then I saw the ratings afterwards and I was like, oh yeah, like it's bad. Both the audience and the critics gave it under a 25%. And I was like, this is horrible. Holy shit, it's so bad. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not even that like
It's not
impressive of
good.
a cast. Like she's obviously the biggest name. Um, the like you said, the guy that teaches um shop or whatever. I've seen him around. Matthew McFadden is.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's a big deal, but he's been in a lot of stuff, and he's pretty solid. Um,
Yeah. It looks like he pays Fidel Castro or no, just Che Guevara, excuse me, in a miniseries called Fidel. Yeah, he's played like a lot of other. I feel like I've seen him something more recently though, like in the past few years. I'm trying to see where I've seen him because he looked so familiar, this guy. I know where he's from. He plays the father in Old, another
oh
Shyamalan
yeah,
film.
yeah.
That's where he's from.
Yeah.
He
And
plays
then,
the father of like the couple with the two kids.
yep, yep,
Yeah. Okay. And the wife has like a really bad tumor, and that's why they go to the island. Okay. Now it's like, I was like, I know this guy. Where is he from? But yeah, he's the father. Interesting.
yeah. And then the only other name that I really recognize is Rachel Sennett. I guess she's in it for a second
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah, she was in it for a second. I was like excited to see more of her, and I was like, this is it. Whatever. She's just like a babysitter. Get out. Like, whatever.
Yeah, so
Whatever. I thought we were going to see more of her. She was going to be like part of more of like the plot twist. But yeah, no, it's like, all right, give her like the smallest role ever, and that's it.
yeah, so
But yeah,
so
don't go see it.
everybody
It's a
should
waste of your
watch
time.
this movie twice. At least it's free on Prime if you really want to give it a shot. You're not going to lose any money on
Yeah,
it, but
I was like, I only have like 2, 3 hours until the podcast. Let me watch something quick, and I regret choosing this one. I was like, how bad could it be? It's a thriller. It's got Nicole Kidman. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Just even going through the reviews, I'm laughing because I'm like, I thought a lot of the same stuff that these critics are writing. They're like, oh, don't waste your time. It's so bad. It's so bad. Why did they make this so horrible?
um, well, okay, so I'm going to stick with streaming, and we'll let Nicole Kidman's career die slowly as it is. Um,
So sad. She's so talented. Like
she really
sh
is. Like
she
she's
needs
really
to
good.
like put better stuff at. Like she needs to be in better stuff. Just everything I've seen her in like the past year or so, I'm like, this is garbage. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop with the bad stuff, Nicole. You're
Yeah,
better than that, girlfriend.
she needs to let Reese Witherspoon produce a couple more things for her, so she
Seriously.
can, get going. But um, okay, yeah. So I also it was in a similar boat. Like I was watching stuff this week. I've been watching The Last of Us, doing a rewatch because that comes back next week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got myself into a little bit of a Lost rewatch, so I've been watching some of that. Um, but I was looking for something that felt a little fresher for the podcast. And on Netflix, I've seen this pop up a few times. There's a show called Pantheon. It's an animated show, and there was some buzz around it, so I finally looked it up. And on IMDb, it's an 8.5. It's 100% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 95% from the audience. And so I was like, okay, well, this is probably worth watching. I guess it was originally an AMC show before it made it to Netflix, so it was actually on cable before Netflix, and it is it's interesting because it has almost I don't want to say a teen Severance feel. It's rated like
Mm-hmm.
TV 14, so it's okay for kids, but I kind of wish that it was TVMA. Like I wish it was just a little more mature
Right.
in the rating because the content is relatively intelligent. Like I think it would have benefited from just being able to do whatever it wanted with the MA rating. Not that it necessarily would have had to do a whole lot more, but so the gist of the story is there's this teenage girl. And I'm only a few episodes in, so I've got a long way to go. It's 2 seasons. I think it only got 2 seasons, but apparently, at least it ends in a reasonable place at the end of that second season. Um, but there's this young girl. Um, she's an Asian girl. She's walking around school. She's getting picked on by the you know the plastics, if you will, from Mean Girls, right? Like it's the same idea. Like you have these girls that are just kind of bullying her, and she goes home and she's having a really shitty day. Um, she sits down at her computer that her dad gave her before he passed away, and it was her mom's old computer. And she sits down, and this like chat window pops up, and the person communicating with her only communicates with like emojis, like they can't write words. And so as she starts to communicate with this person, it seems like they know things about her life. And then she goes to school the next day, and all the people that were picking on her, all of a sudden, their words and their things they're doing are all getting twisted around. And all of a sudden, they're all blaming each other for this like text chain that's going around that that's really uh, kind of turns them all against each other while she's kind of left off and alone. And it seems like whoever hacked into her computer and was sending her these messages is the person behind it. And so we go to come to find out that um, it seems like maybe it's her dad messaging her, but supposedly her dad died a year or two before. And in flashbacks, we find out the dad is played by Daniel Day Kim from Lost, who is a fantastic actor. As a matter of fact, the cast of this show in general is really great. You got Paul Dano, Aaron Eckhart, Rosemary DeWitt, Christy Diamantopoulos, which is too Greek to say. Raza Jaffrey, who I wouldn't recognize him by name, but I've definitely seen him in stuff. Daniel Day Kim, Ron Livingston, Taylor Schilling from Orange is the New Black. I said Ron Livingston, Kevin Durand, Scoot McNairy, Maud Apatow. Like there's just a ton of names in this thing. And they all do a really good job. And so she starts going through this thing, and and while this is going on, we see kind of another story of the character played by Paul Dano, who, as we go through these first few episodes, we start to realize he's part of some kind of experiment. The people that he thinks his parents are, the people that he thinks are his parents are kind of like his handlers in this experiment that he doesn't know is going on. And we don't quite know what that is, but it's something to do that brings these two characters together. Is it's something to do with this huge tech company. I think it's called Logarithmics or something like that. It's this huge tech company. It was started by this very Steve Jobs like character, played by William Hurt. And this company, unbeknownst to most people in the world, has started attempting to go beyond AI. They're doing something that they're calling UI, which is uploading people's brains into computers. And so what we find out in the first few episodes is that it seems like this girl is actually talking to her dad, who, when he passed away, had worked for this company and volunteered to upload his brain into the computer, and so or into their network. And so now it's starting to become this big conspiracy about how trapped these uploaded people feel being stuck inside this network. So they're breaking out. That's why she started being able to communicate with him, but because he, as a machine, was still learning how to communicate with people. That's why it started with emojis, and then it became written language, and then, you know, all this. And so as the story is going on through these first few episodes, we're starting to see that more and more of these uploaded intelligences are very smart. You know, they picked people that were intelligent to do this with, which might be to their disadvantage as a company, right? You took all these intelligent people and put them into this machine to see what they could do. And it turns out that they're too smart to be caged up. If you'd picked a bunch of dummies and put them up there, you'd probably be fine. And so this is going to turn into this big conspiracy show. And Yeah, the acting is just really on point. The animation is fine. I don't think it's over the top. It's not corny. It definitely has a very kind of realistic feel to it. Um, and all in all, at least from the beginning of it, it's really solid. They use a lot of actual music in the soundtrack. So, they used Queen in one episode and stuff like that. So they're not skimping on the production quality of it, right? Like you can tell from the cast that they wanted to get the right people for this for whatever reason. Looking it up, I guess it was based on a series of short stories by a
Mm.
writer named Ken Liu, who I'm not familiar with. Um, but uh, but yeah, it's just been really good overall so far. No episode on IMDb is rated less than an 8. I do feel like the first couple of episodes started a little slow. It's starting to pick up by the third episode. Most things are in the mid to high eights in IMDb, but the last like 3 episodes are all 9 and above, which is really impressive. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it's an interesting, um, it's an interesting plot for sure, and there's a lot that they can do with it. So I'm really curious to see, what they do with it. It's created by a guy named Craig Silverstein, who I'm not super familiar with. I don't know what else he's created. His name sounds kind of familiar. See if I
Hmm.
can see. Oh, he created or produced the show Turn Washington Spies, which was a big deal a few years back. I guess a decade back now, which was about George Washington's spies during the Revolution, the American Revolution. Revolution. Um, he was a producer on Percy Jackson and the Olympians on Disney last year, which was only kind of okay. Um, but he's been around, but I think this seems like it may be the best thing that he's produced to date. Um, but yeah, and like an overall, like I said, 8.5, 100% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's there. It definitely feels like a very intelligent show. Like it's very smart. But like I said,
Right.
I wish it had that MA rating because I think it would have given them just a hair more freedom because the subject matter is I think more adult than like a show for uh 14-year-old kids that are 14 and up. I think it's a little headier than that, but yeah, it's off to a really solid start, and apparently it's going to get better and better. So I'm excited for it, and
Hmm.
um, it's going to be an interesting one. So
Yeah. You and Andrew seem to really like the animated series that they're putting out on
y-
Netflix and because you guys were pretty at least what was it this summer or the fall where you guys watched I can't think of it. Arcane that was it, right? Arcane
yeah,
you guys were really
Arcane.
into.
Yeah, Arcane was that one came out. They did 3 seasons, and they were pretty well separated, kind of like Stranger Things almost.
Right.
Or maybe they only did 2 seasons, but the production value of it was incredible. And
Hmm.
I think it really depends. Like we've been watching Invincible. I think we're both behind on the most recent season. That's over on Amazon Prime, but that's a series again with a great cast.
Hmm.
They've put a lot of effort into making it quality. That one's actually is TVMA or for mature audiences, right? Um,
Right.
and you know, uh, you really can make good animated,
Hmm.
drama. I think, animation has been widely known for comedy for a long time. The Simpsons has run for, I don't know,
Right.
100 years now. South Park's been on forever. Family Guy,
Oh
all these
yeah.
really great comedies have been around for a long time. But we've seen a lot of really great dramas in animation, but they don't quite get the public, notoriety that the comedy does. Like, Andrew loves Attack on Titan. Actually love Attack on Titan. We've watched that. Um,
Hmm.
and that is a very, very mature show. But in a lot of
Yeah.
cases, some of the animated stuff requires you to nerd out a little bit more, right? Like it's either more science fiction-y or it's more, um, I
Hmm.
wouldn't put Attack on Titan quite as fantasy, but it's definitely not like a this is our world kind of thing. Pantheon feels like it's our world, but
Hmm.
one technological step further than
Totally.
where we're probably at right now. Um, but yeah, there are some advantages to animation because you can do things that would be too costly for live action, you know. But like I actually could totally see this show having been done as a live action show, similar to something like Severance on Apple TV.
Right.
It's kind of in the ideas that it's putting forward, not that different from Severance in a lot of ways. So it's
Hmm.
interesting to watch this one, having just watched Severance, and maybe that's part of the reason that I'm not quite sure it's as good as it's rated. Like I like it so far. I'll have to get to the end of it, see if I really put it up there, like at
Hmm.
that 8 and higher. But it's off to a solid start. But like I said, yeah, animation. There's a significant advantage to animation, including getting a good cast, because the cast just has
Yep.
to come in and record their lines and and leave. They don't have to be on set all the time and do all that. Granted, you have to turn around and hire animators and all that. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, there's it'll be interesting to see if animated dramas continue to move forward and walk that line of being a little too
Hmm.
kiddish. Like it's really easy to see them as too kiddish when they come out. Um, they just put one out on Netflix based on a video game called Devil May Cry that's been around forever. And the reviews for it are solid from the critics. It's 94%, but only 68% from the audience. Um, they Netflix did the Witcher
Hmm.
TV series with Henry Cavill,
Mm.
and they just did an animated movie with the actor that does the voice work for the video game. And so those are very adult. But it's hard because, like I said, they a lot of this stuff kind of leans into less mainstream and more kind of nerdy culture that you're trying to get people out of, where fewer things are successful in that genre than almost any other. Like you have Game of Thrones is almost a fluke, right?
Hmm.
Where everybody on the planet watched Game of Thrones, but generally speaking, when something comes out that is
Hmm.
in that fantasy vein, it's hard to get people to watch.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like animation, I think will continue to move forward. I think if you watch something like Arcane, you can see where the art style is almost a character. Like the
Hmm.
art is so impressive in Arcane that it's really crazy. This one, the art isn't the most interesting part of it. Like it's definitely the story. Same with Invincible. The art is almost kind of basic, but it's really well made.
Nice.
So far, I would say to give this one a watch if you like the sci-fi stuff. If you liked Severance, I think this one might resonate with you. Although, like I said, it feels like it started a little slower than I was expecting, but it's building up pretty quickly. So
Nice.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. So I don't really have anything else. Like I said, I've been watching older stuff, getting ready for next week's drop of The Last of Us. I'll have to find something to watch this week before next week because The Last of Us comes out after we record.
Hmm.
I know the following week we're going to talk the White Lotus finale.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm ready for that.
yeah,
I'm
I'm all
behind
caught
like
up.
2 episodes. I'm not, so I
Yeah,
am taking next weekend to catch up on it, and I'm excited to see how it ends, even though I've not been a fan of this season, and we'll figure it out.
yeah, I could say it definitely builds up here at the end, going into this last episode.
Yeah.
Um, but even with the build up, I think it's still not my favorite season. It's
No.
I think I like the other two more, but we'll see what it does in the end. I've seen some quotes from actors on the show. I think the girl that plays Chloe said
Hmm.
that people are going to hate Mike White when this thing is over. And I know they're planning on doing
Oh,
another season already, so I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this one.
who knows?
So yeah, I've seen a lot of crazy fan theories and stuff out there that I'm not going to get involved in.
Yep. I'm
Um,
closing my eyes, my ears. I
yeah,
don't want to hear anything. I want to be fully surprised by
yeah. So,
everything.
but I can say that I think come Monday it will be the first time that an episode will drop, and I'll want to have watched it the next day.
Mm,
Because like for a lot of this season, I've been like, I'll just watch it when I have some time or whatever. I'm actually really curious to see where this one ends
ends.
up. So, um,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
it's at least got me that interested, which for a while I was convinced I wasn't going to get to. Part of me wasn't even sure I was going to finish it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it definitely picked up. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll talk about that in a couple weeks. Um, yeah, and I'll just find some stuff for this coming week.
Yep. I'm seeing a movie on Tuesday, which I'll talk about in 2 weeks. Ballad of Wallace Island, which is a new film that
No, I
uh,
heard of that one.
came out. It's with why am I blanking out? It's takes place, I guess, in Ireland, but I'm seeing that for my Tuesday movie tradition or little neighborhood group thing. Yeah, it's the Ballad of Wallace Island, which it looks good and it's got like over 90%, 97% Rotten Tomatoes. It's
Okay.
got Carey Mulligan in it, so I'm
Oh,
excited
I
for
like
that.
her.
And
Yeah.
then in a few weeks, I got tickets to see Hugh Jackman perform at Radio City Music Hall. His show is called Hugh Jackman Live,
Huh.
um, with Love from New York or New York with Love, something like that. But it goes through like a whole, I guess, roster of his songs from like Music Man, The Greatest Showman, Les Mis, like the list goes on and on. I'm just excited because I think he is one of the most talented people in Hollywood.
He's very charismatic, I think. I think watching him,
Totally.
I think shows like that are underrated. I think when somebody just kind of sits
Hmm.
down and does their thing and you get to it almost feels like a conversation with the actor as they go through the things that they've done. Those are a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. He's doing the show, Radio City Music Hall. I think it started in like January, and he's going to do every other month or so for like a weekend in New York, all the way through like September, October of this year. So he carefully curated the show and the song choices, and apparently there are people that I guess in the past couple of shows when he's come on, like some surprise celebrity appearances. So I'm like, I was talking with some friends that are like, oh, hopefully Sutton Foster. I'm like, I want Anne Hathaway to show up or like Michelle Williams because like Greatest Showman's one of my favorite movies.
Well, he's
Um,
with Sutton Foster, isn't he?
he is,
Yeah,
yep.
so she could definitely show up.
Scandalous. Oh yeah.
Yes.
But yes, he can definitely show up with her. It's weird because like Hollywood is like totally backing. Well, I think overall they're supporting it.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
like I don't know. I mean, they both were married for like a good amount of time, and I think it's just one of those things where I don't know. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a quick and done thing. Like they were both married for a while. Maybe it was just time for both of them to move on. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think yeah, it's hard to pass judgment on that. They like you said, they were married for a long time and he at least up until the end never seemed to do wrong by her. So um
right,
it is a little questionable the timing of the whole relationship with Sutton Foster because they were doing their show together and they got divorced during the
right.
show. So
Little
there can be a little
suspect.
yeah, but I mean overall
Yeah,
it is what it is. For a Hollywood for somebody as big as he was to stay married to somebody who was kind of nobody for as long as he did was almost impressive in
older
its own
too.
right. Yeah.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
so
So that will be interesting. And then I'm sure Andrew's gonna watch, but Black Mirror comes back. New season this month.
yes, yeah, he'll be excited about that. And then that has one of the big episodes. I can't remember the name of the ship, but it's a very Star Trekky kind of episode that is a
Oh, I saw that. Oh,
sequel
I didn't know they
episode.
had a
Yeah,
sequel. It's with
Kristen Milioti and oh, I forget who. There's another.
Kirsten Dunst's husband. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, 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 yeah.
Less
So
attractive Matt Damon.
yeah. Yeah, so
Everyone says.
there'll be that one will be good. Um,
Yeah.
if you have you ever watched Hacks on HBO?
No, but I've heard good things.
It
It's
is
coming back,
great.
right?
Yeah, it comes back on the 10th. If you've got time to watch something, I would definitely
Jesse
recommend it.
Plemons. Jesse
Jesse
Plemons.
Plemons, yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend Hacks to anybody. It's a great dramedy. I think Jean Smart deserves every award that she's won for that show. She's been
Yeah.
incredible. The girl whose name escapes me that plays the kind of up and coming writer is
Yeah.
great, and I'm totally stoked to see because the way the last season ended, like the last minute of the last episode was just incredible. So to see
Awesome.
where it's going to
Yeah.
go, yeah, it's going to be really good. So I'm excited for that. That comes back on the 10th, which is 5 days from now. So I think Thursday.
Cool.
Like I said, definitely recommend that. If you haven't watched Hacks, that one is almost a universal watch. Like I think
Yeah.
most people can watch it and really enjoy it.
Cool.
And then yeah, so we'll see what else is out there. But um, we'll come up with some stuff for next week. You're out next week, right?
I am
Thank-
Passover.
Yeah.
So I will be back the following week and then we will talk White Lotus and other stuff. And I'm
Yep.
excited about it. There's a lot of good stuff I think coming up. So awesome.
Yeah. And I think Andrew's back next week. I hope so. I won't be by myself. And we will find cool stuff to talk about. So
Cool.
I will say with that, thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.